Good morning. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. This week on Spotlight, an in-depth conversation with Michigan State University professor Matt Grossmann. He teaches American politics and public policy in East Lansing and serves as the distinguished director of the Nonpartisan Institute for Public Policy and Social Research. What does he make of the results of the past midterm elections, and what's the future of Michigan and American politics and government? I'll ask him. It's Sunday, November the 27th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. You had a forum about a week ago. A lot of distinguished dignitaries on there and highly educated people. If you had to take a headline out of that forum, what would it be?
Sea change in Lansing. They are looking at the new control of the legislature by the Democrats and how that happened.
Were you surprised? You've been in the state for almost 3 decades. You've been watching Michigan politics. Were you surprised by what you saw on election night?
I was certainly surprised that Gretchen Whitmer pulled off a 10.5-point statewide win. But if I knew that, I wouldn't have been surprised at the legislative results because I had analyzed those maps quite a bit. And I knew that if the Democrats win statewide, they're very likely to win in the legislature in both chambers.
So if you're the governor and you're looking at this and you say, okay, I control the executive branch, I control the House, I control the Senate, is that good news or bad news for her?
Well, it actually tends to be bad electoral news for the subsequent election. So when you win a close chamber in the House and the Senate, you're actually less likely to win the next election. But that's a few years away. And in the meantime, they are likely to get more done. Now, we're talking about 2-vote majorities, so we are not talking about a lot of room to spare. But the Democratic leadership does seem fairly united and ready to go on lots of those things they have been putting off when they didn't have the majorities.
Everybody has an agenda and a wish list. And does that put her in a position when she's trying to govern, I assume, from the middle, because she always says, I'm representing the entire state, red and blue, not just the Democrats. But when you're in control, I would imagine a lot of Democrats are like, forget about that. Let's run this railroad train as quick as we can.
Certainly, there'll be a lot of asks. The good news for her is that the Republicans left her with a gift of several $1 billion of spending on the table from the federal government. So you can tell that they didn't expect to lose control of the legislature because they left a lot of money for the Democrats to spend. So she should be able to say yes more than usual. But yes, you'll still have that dynamic where it's in the overall Democratic Party's interest not to go overboard and have the voters think that they've gone too far to the left. And yet there's a lot of people with agenda items that they want to pass.
Yeah. If you're a betting person, what do you think what are the first few things that you think she'll go for in terms of policies trying to get through?
Well, certainly we should expect more education and roads funding. I think they will try to repeal right to work. They probably won't go through with it unless they have the votes to do it lined up before they start. But certainly, and gun control measures of some sort. I wouldn't expect them to be overly dramatic, but certainly like the red flag law that's been under consideration since the school shooting. So you'll see across the board policymaking, but I don't want people to get too excited about all the agenda items. On average, when a new party takes control of a legislature, they're only able to move policy about 1% in their direction from the difference between the parties. So if you think, here's all the Republicans believe, here's all the Democrats believe, in each year that they're in charge, they're able to move it about 1% in their direction.
If you're Republicans, what are you coming to the table asking for?
Well, first, we should say that even though we report more on the policies that divide the parties, the majority of policies that pass the legislature still pass with bipartisan support and widespread support. So it's not as if nothing can get done with compromise. But on those knife edge issues, what they're going to do is have to figure out which Democrats can they peel off to create a majority on their side or to undermine the majority on the Democratic side. And it's not as obvious as it was in the past because Democratic representatives are concentrated in cities and metro areas. You don't have kind of the obvious swing vote on, say, cultural issues, where you might expect a more rural Democratic district to not go along with the Democratic majority. There just aren't very many of those kinds of districts in this new Democratic majority.
Sure. Professor Grossman, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the things that you've written in some of your recent books, and I want to talk about this factor of trust, which you've talked about on both the Republican side and the Democratic side. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Based upon the studies that you've done and the books that you've written, let's take one party at a time, the Democrats. Who do the Democrats trust?
Well, Democratic trust in major institutions has actually been increasing during the Trump era. They trust the media more. They trust academics more. They trust everyone a little bit more since Donald Trump has been president. And it's sort of a curious fact. Why is that? But it seems like to be a reaction against Trump sort of bemoaning those institutions. So when Republicans trust those institutions less, Democrats have begun to trust them more.
And who do Republicans trust?
Well, for Republicans, you have remaining trust in the military, you have remaining trust in local police, but not a whole lot of jumps in trust in any social institution. So overall, you combine those two, the Democrats trusting a little bit more in those institutions, Republicans trusting institutions across the board less than they used to, and we're seeing just social institutions have less trust than they used to.
Professor, we've always had partisanship in politics as far back as I can remember, and certainly if you look in terms of history, it goes way, 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 way back, but maybe not to the degree that it is now. What do you attribute all of this partisanship to?
Well, on the optimistic side, voters have figured out the difference between the two political parties and which side they generally agree with. And that really wasn't true in the 70s. A lot of people couldn't tell you which party was the more conservative party, which party was the more liberal party, which issue positions the parties held. And so over the last 50 years, a lot of people have learned what are the Republicans generally for and what are the Democrats generally for, and made kind of a standing decision for which party they normally support. And that's true of representatives as well. There's fewer that don't side with their party on key issues. Now, the good news from the last election is that voters still are able to differentiate. So we saw some real split ticket voting. The Republicans in the legislature only lost statewide by 1.5%, whereas Gretchen Whitmer won by 10.5%. So that means a lot of people who were still voting for their local Republican representatives decided to cross over in the governor's race and vote for the Democrat.
Was redistricting a winner or a loser in this state?
Well, certainly if you wanted statewide partisan parity, you wanted the winner of the most votes statewide to win the most votes in the legislative chambers, it was a success story. The Democrats won the statewide vote by about 1.5%, and they won each legislative chamber by about 1.5%. So the distribution of votes across seats was such that you really got a majority to match the statewide majority. That wasn't true in 2018. In past elections, Democrats had gotten more votes statewide and still lost control of those chambers. So that's the big success story. On the lack of success, I would say racial representation does not seem to have followed what the commission had in mind. They said they were creating all of these new districts of opportunity that had about 40 percent African American voters in them, and that might lead to more representation. And that's not what happened. We're going to see less representation for African Americans in the state Senate and about the same in the state House.
Since January 6th, we're hearing an awful lot about democracy. Was democracy, you can take this both statewide as well as nationally, was democracy a winner in this midterm elections or a loser?
Well, it wasn't a loser, but I'm a little bit of a skeptic of the claims that, for example, the Secretary of State candidate really did poorly because of these democracy issues. Because if you look at the ads that Jocelyn Benson ran, she did do the best of the statewide candidates, of the top 3 candidates. But the ads that she ran were about improving service and lowering lines at the Secretary of State's office. So one of the other explanations, besides democracy being on the ballot, is that Democrats just had a lot more money to spend in these Secretary of State races. And I think they outspent Republicans 17-1 in those races, and that paid off.
In your book, Red State Blues, you say that Republicans failed to enact policies that advance conservative goals. Expound upon that.
So we have really had a huge change in control of state governments that may be turning now that Democrats have regained some control. In the early 1990s, only about 3 states had full Republican control, a Republican trifecta in the House, Senate, and governor. And that went up to a majority of states by 2017. But it wasn't necessarily associated with a huge shift, especially in the size and scope of government. So over that same period when Republicans gained control of all these states, state spending actually doubled. And especially increased in areas like education and healthcare that are more traditional Democratic priorities. So in terms of actually kind of shifting the size and scope of government, Republicans weren't able to achieve that. On some issues, they did gain ground, particularly in education choice, for example, that we saw in Michigan, as well as in labor policy. They moved policy rightward. But on those basic economic policies, they really weren't able to turn the ship.
All right, we need to take a quick little pause for a call, so we'll come right back. I promise we'll talk about Republicans nationally, the Donald Trump factor, which you've done some tweets about. And before this program is over, we want to make sure that we talk about the Institute for Public Policy and Social Research and your leadership program. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Professor Grossmann, before we talk about the Donald Trump factor, particularly from a national level, one question on a statewide level. We now see female leadership in the executive branch, Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and a lot of other key positions statewide. Talk about the significance of that, if indeed you believe there's significance to this, and what that may reflect in terms of policy, leadership, and the direction of this state.
Well, certainly it's historic to have women in the 3 main leadership positions statewide and to have been reelected by fairly large margins. It wasn't necessarily reflected in the legislature. Nationwide, we're not seeing any increase in this election in women's representation, and that's because it really isn't increasing on the Republican side, even while it is increasing on the Democratic side. But nonetheless, over the last couple of decades, there's been a huge increase. But we should say that huge increase is from, say, 10% of state legislatures to like 30% of state legislatures. So we're still nowhere near 50-50.
Women govern a little different than men. Any truth to that in terms of how they approach leadership and how they approach government in getting things done?
There absolutely is evidence that women, for example, are more likely to co-sponsor bills and to sponsor them across a wider variety of partners. Women also tend to have a slightly different issue focus in their bill sponsorship in legislatures. So there definitely is evidence of both sort of capacity and political strategy maybe being a little more cooperative or a little bit more willing to work with a variety of partners. And that also probably applies to the executive. We just don't have as much research on that side.
And you, I think, recently wrote something where you said there's a long way to go in all this, and right now, I guess, sort of planted the seed that Republicans aren't doing such a great job of shutting Donald Trump down.
That's right. You got your week off from the 2022 election, and we're on to 2024 already. The cycle has begun. Donald Trump again underperformed the general Republican vote. His endorsed candidates got about 5% less support in House and Senate elections than other Republican candidates. So it's clear that in general elections, Trump endorsed and Trump style candidates are suffering a penalty that other Republican candidates are not. And yet Donald Trump is very popular among Republican voters. And it is going to be difficult to dislodge his hold on the Republican Party in Michigan and nationwide. It is going to take another candidate who has the support of everybody who does not want Donald Trump to be the nominee in order to dislodge him. And I think it's going to take more than just an electability argument. Republicans are going to want to know why they shouldn't have Donald Trump as their leader beyond just that he suffers that electoral penalty.
On the one hand, it appears as though the Trump name is a little toxic in terms of candidates getting themselves elected, at least in this past midterm. But yet nationally, he's still very popular with his mega base. That seems to be in conflict with each other.
Just a difference between the general election voters and the primary voters. And we saw that in Michigan. As soon as Trump endorsed Tudor Dixon for the governor's race, we basically saw her shut down all of the other opponents and win by a large margin in the primary election, shoot up in the polls just based on that Trump endorsement. But that didn't help her in the general elections. She still lost by a large margin. So Donald Trump has kind of consolidated support among Republicans, but that is not a majority in the statewide or nationwide electorate.
If Republicans truly want to remake their party and not make it so much the Donald Trump party, wouldn't they do better to go into a room, figure out who's going to run against Donald Trump and make it a one-on-one race in the primary versus 15 different Republicans all thinking that they can win? They split up the vote. He has the greatest name recognition, and he does in the primary exactly what we saw happen on a local level here with the 13th Congressional District.
And that means that if somebody is at 30% support, but the vote is distributed among the other candidates, then that person can still win. There's a long way to go, and typically candidates do drop out as we get closer to those primaries. But absolutely, people who don't want Trump as the Republican nominee are going to have to consolidate behind one alternative.
Very quickly before we go to this last little break, your best guess 2 years from now, will Donald Trump be the Republican nominee going up against Joe Biden or another Democrat if President Biden decides he's not going to seek re-election?
Well, the prediction markets had him at like 65% before the election and are down to like 35 or 40%. So I think it's in between. It's pretty close to 50-50 now. There are emerging challengers that could win, but it is not going to be easy to take down Donald Trump in the Republican primary.
We'll be right back with a couple quick questions about the IPPSR. Stay with us. IPPSR, those of us who surround ourselves with watching politics know a lot about it. The average person may not. Give us a little brief history about it and what you do there and why it's so important in terms of public policy for this state.
We're the main unit at Michigan State University in terms of outreach to state government and research on public policy issues. We also have a signature Michigan political leadership program, which takes half Democrats and half Republicans around the state to learn about politics, policy, and leadership. We just graduated our new group of 24 fellows who will likely go on to future positions in Michigan government. And we're about to see the newly elected legislators for a sort of orientation for getting to know Lansing. So all of that is exciting and helps to connect the university with state government.
I'm curious, when you take half Democrats, half Republicans in this leadership program, do they get along, or do you see the partisanship that we see in the larger society in that sort of academic incubator?
They absolutely get along. They love each other and they get to know each other very well. We are seeing the polarization in terms of when they enter, they're more likely to disagree on everything rather than just a few things in terms of policy issues. But part of the program is just allowing people to get together socially, to get to know one another, to hear one another's background stories. And that goes a long way in terms of yielding partnerships and relationships where they're able to meet people across the aisle. It's also about just seeing parts of the state. You know, we bring Republicans from north who have never been to the city of Detroit or might have just been there for just a baseball game, and vice versa, people who've never been up north. So it's an important way of seeing the state and getting to know different constituencies that we have represented in the state.
Final question, what are you seeing and hearing from those young students that you're teaching at Michigan State University that may be interested in politics, and how have they perhaps changed during your tenure teaching?
Well, they see the toxic politics like the rest of us and are hopeful that they can find a way around it. But they come in with strong opinions as well. And so you see the basic dynamic where we have two sides that really do disagree about lots of different things and still want to change things. And the question is it just the relationships and reducing the vitriol? If so, we can solve that problem. If it's sort of fundamental disagreements on values, that's going to be harder for them to take on.
All right. Professor Matt Grossmann, Director of the Institute for Public Policy and Social Research, also professor there at Michigan State University. Thanks so much for spending time with us today on Spotlight and all of your insight, and best of luck to all that you're doing there on the great campus of Michigan State University in East Lansing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the Spotlight. We hope you have a great week.